I have not one, but two guests with me today. They are both local activists in the Los Angeles area. They were both active Bernie Sanders supporters, and now they're active with Healthcare for LA and the DSA Healthcare Committee and the K-Dems, and they're doing what they can to try to get some decent policy passed here in California. And we're going to talk about what's been going on recently and what it means going forward. Please welcome, first of all, back to the show. She's been on the show before, Melissa Michelson, and for the first time, Dennis Resendez. What's up, everybody, folks?
Hey there.
Thanks for the invite, Ron.
Good to see you. Thanks for being here today. And so what I want to talk about is, Melissa, you posted earlier this month that at the K-Dem virtual meeting, there were a nice handful of policies that they officially signed on to. The broadband for all bill, which I've been diving into, and it looks like there's a lot of potential in that bill. The healthcare bill, which I want to talk about that a lot specifically, that would bring single payer healthcare to California. There was a public banking bill. And feel free to fill in anything I'm forgetting. Then there was a nice list of policies. Anything else you want to highlight?
Yeah, there was a wealth tax one, and I think there was another kind of money out of politics one.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to refer back to my Facebook post because 2 weeks ago is like 5 years ago for me sometimes.
Understandable. Well, so let's start basic. What does that mean? Like, what does it mean that these policies were officially endorsed at that conference? Like, what does that mean going forward?
Well, I mean, to some people, it pretty much means nothing because it's the same Democratic Party, the same basic bullshit, right? But what it means to me, and which is why I posted it, is, and every year there's a couple of interesting bills or resolutions that the Democratic Party gets behind. I'm talking about the California Democratic Party, which is a big one, right? It's pretty important. But this year, I saw a little more than usual in terms of those types of bills that we progressives over the past couple of years have been pushing, like you said, the broadband bill and so on. Like something like that I would not have expected to see when I started with the Democratic Party back in, I guess, 2017 or so. And so I asked people on my Facebook post, what do you guys think? From a historic perspective, what are your thoughts before, and there's plenty of people that have been in the party long before me, progressives rather, who have been really dismayed at the whole thing, and now. And so the answers I got were interesting, and I think there's progress being made in terms of the party listening to things that are important to us, and the CalCare thing being adopted as well is rather interesting. Question is it lip service? Is the Democratic Party, again, I just want to reiterate though that the party, when I say the party, I mean people, like 3,000 plus individuals. And there are good individuals and bad individuals. So, I mean, that group of people, will that group of people or a majority in the group of people actually do things for those different bills? That still remains to be seen. And that depends on the people in the room, right? And Dennis here is extremely active on CalCare. So he's one example of taking it to the next level. So it's what it meant to me is that the Democratic Party is willing to put its stamp of approval on those progressive items, and that's a good head start. And now what it needs is for the people, for us activists and organizers, to gather our troops and go to the legislature, just like the Bank Cal. Is it called Bank Cal? I think it's Cal Bank, or Bank Cal, I think it's called, for the public bank. What Trinity Tran is doing and the Public Banking Alliance of California is amazing. And she's able to gather all the legislators behind this and push it through. So with the Democratic Party's seal of approval, that's what legislators are willing to do. They're willing to listen to us a little more. So that's why I was excited about what happened at the convention. Now, let that be said, the Democratic Party did not approve the Free Assange journalism resolution that Feel the Burn Democratic Club, which I'm a president of, wrote and put forth. So it was going to be a big push. I didn't expect them to, and but I wanted to put it out there anyway to, regardless of it being passed or not. But that was just a resolution.
So let's go to healthcare specifically then. And Dennis, I'll pose this question to you first. So what is could something like this be done via a ballot measure that would then get sent to the governor, or kind of where is AB 1400, the single payer healthcare bill in California? What is the status of it now? Like you got okay, the Democratic Party is saying they're on board with it, although they don't have the best track record of this in the past. So where is it now, and where can it potentially go? What are the avenues for it to be signed into law?
So right now, it's a bill that's going through the state legislature. It's not a ballot initiative. Unfortunately, it was recently tabled for the year. Tabling means it's just being put on hold. The reason being, the author got a lot of flack for not having a financial sourcing for the bill, which is right now we're just working. The bill is just working on policy, and having passed a policy would not mean it would have gone into effect. The next thing would have been to work on how we finance the policy, or in this case, the CalCare program. But the author, one of the authors, Ash Kalra, Assemblyman Ash Kalra, decided he wanted to shelve the bill, work on the financing for the bill a little bit more, and then he's going to bring it back up. I want to say in about 8 months in the next assembly session.
So it has already been tabled for this year.
Correct.
And the reason they're giving is financing. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This is the same thing Anthony Rendon did several years prior.
Yes. Even though we at the time, I shouldn't say we, it was a few organizations brought forth proposed spending package. I shouldn't call it package, just a proposal. Thank you. Sorry. On how to fund AB 562. Mm-hmm. Even though that was done, he still decided he's going to let it die. This is a little bit different in that the author had to possibly avoid the same thing from happening, wanted to work the bill a little bit more and see what he could do to get some sort of more broad spending package into the bill. Now, there are funding mechanisms already built in the bill. One of the things is we would go to the Health and Human Services to get waivers that are promised us to states that want to implement their own healthcare programs, such as CalCare. We can go to Health and Human Services and request those waivers, and that would give us a significant amount of money for the fund that would pay for the program eventually. But there are other things we could do, like progressive taxation, and forgetting what some of the other funding sources are. Of course, we'd also be pulling funding from programs like the ACA, Medicare, CHIP.
Yeah, we'd be pulling funds from what people are already paying.
Exactly.
People are already paying these ridiculous premiums for healthcare. A single payer program would save money. So we're already, I mean, and that's why I have a hard time, and of course, this is no fault of your guys's, obviously, like you're the people on the front lines trying to make it better. But it's so frustrating seeing these same excuses being thrown in our faces.
Right.
And it is, quite frankly, I think a nonsense excuse. It's like, I mean, how can we afford cheaper healthcare? That's what they're saying. Well, It's cheaper. What do you? It'd be like if you had a $300 car payment, and I was like, "Hey, good news! I can get you a better car payment, and it's only $150." And you say, "Well, I can't afford an extra $150 this month." Well, wait a second. Wait, the $300 thing goes away. What are you complaining about here? I'm very confused. But yet, this is what the establishment in California keeps doing.
Yeah. And some of it's,
I don't disagree.
some of it's genuine, or some people may have legitimate concerns, but if you go to, there's a great resource on the Secretary of State of California's website where you can do campaign finance searches, and that basically tells you where the opposition really is from.
Right.
My assembly person, she's taking from all sorts of healthcare insurance companies, hospitals, DaVita, the dialysis center. She's taking all sorts of campaign contributions from these groups that oppose single payer initiatives like CalCare.
Right.
So that's part of it. That's a big part, I would say.
My firm belief is until there is money out of politics, we're not going to get anything, or at least it'll be still an uphill battle. And my other question is to both of you then, what is the alternative? I mean, of course, we got to vote these people out, but then there's the money out of politics, pushing down on that. But what is the alternative to have legislative change? We need these people.
Well, what would it take? What would it take? And I'm sorry to respond to your question with a question, but this was kind of where I was going at next, which I think kind of would be an answer to your question as well. What would it take to go the ballot initiative route? Like, that's not an impossibility. Like what would that route look like?
I think it would take a certain number of signatures.
Right.
And going around. I can't speak for that. I know that I was involved here locally, and I don't remember, Ron, if I talked to you about that, but I've been involved locally where I live in a ballot initiative where we knew the city council would never support a campaign donation cap of $250. And Dennis was, helped with that in my town. Thank you, Dennis, as a coalition partner. But we knew that our city council would never go for a limit of donations. So what we did was, we meaning people, grassroots people, wrote a bill, and everybody we're just sick and tired of how things were going in our town. So people got together, they wrote a bill, they got a lawyer, they raised some money, and they made it happen. And now there's a limit of $250 that individuals can give to our future city council members. They didn't want it to happen because they're all bought and sold by developers in our city. So, so we went around that, and we walked door to door, explained the situation to people. They signed it, and then we submitted it to the county of Los Angeles. That got approved, and then it went through. And then 2 years later, it took a long time. We had to, 2 years later, it came on the ballot this past November, finally. And of course, they put through opposition, but this is all micro. If you're talking California, there's what it's going to take. The short answer is a lot of money to fight the forces and powers that be. So,
well, and a lot of people too.
And these efforts that that Dennis is making, that other people are making, and the party, and this kind of getting together, the way I see it, is more like demonstration of power of the people, and to always remind people that there is support. It's just kind of a symbol, but there is support if and when, then people, it's almost like a TV ad. I think it just word of mouth, getting the message out there, getting it in people's heads. It takes a long time to reach everybody, but this is what we can do, short of millions of dollars for a concentrated ad effort. against it or for it or whatever it is. But yeah, we need a lot of money to fight the powers that be that don't want it to happen.
Well, you look at what I mean. You brought up the public bank effort in California and specifically here in LA. You look at what they were able to accomplish, and even though they were not successful on the ballot initiative the first time through, which of course was disappointing, but when you look at everything they did, and it all started with a bunch of people showing up to these city council meetings to the point where everyone just got sick of seeing them. And they kept showing up and they kept showing up. They got public banking on the ballot. They got a pretty decent result. I mean, yes, it did not get through because there was a lot of money lobbied against it. We all remember this. But what they were able to do in such a short amount of time was so impressive. And then it led to legislation down the road that permitted for the development of public banks. So
behind the scenes of that, from an outsider perspective, you can say, oh, look at what they did, look at what happened. But really what I saw and I was involved in, and it's not one person particularly that can do it, but there needs to be a strong organizer, a strong will, people support behind it, of course, but without having that the legislators behind this to push in and to talk to the right people and to politicize the thing, and who knows what else, making deals. I don't know what they do, but that's like something I don't even want to ever deal with myself. But that's what, it was just like a cohesion of all of that. And so that's what it takes. We need champions that are elected, unfortunately, that are already elected, champions that are going to push through with this and play politics and do whatever they got to do. That's what I saw with Public Bank, and I'm really excited about where it is. And by the way, Public Bank LA just barely. I mean, I saw the shoestring budget that they were on.
Sure.
We were on, and it was amazing for city of Los Angeles, not the county of Los Angeles, but city of Los Angeles, to put that on there, which is still huge, right? I think I forgot what we got, but I think 46% of the vote, 42%.
Yeah, I believe it was about that. And just to interject here real quick, and I don't think you were implying this, but just to be absolutely clear, I'm not implying it was easy to get to where they got. Like, I know it wasn't, and I know there were a lot of people, and pretty much all of them weren't getting paid a dime, to my knowledge. They were all volunteers who, worked their asses off to get to that point.
Years. It takes patience. It takes lobbying. It takes a champion in the legislature. It takes ideally money. But I think the Public Bank LA, I mean, had they won, they would be the perfect example, of an initiative that won without money. But I think the money aspect, unfortunately, still helps a lot. But yeah, no, I'm just, my point was just that it takes a lot of factors to answer that question of what's it going to take,
Sure. Well, Dennis, when they tabled the healthcare bill again, I mean, what lip service did they offer this time around? Like, did they say they're going to look into the financing? Like what specifically was said that you're aware of?
As Carla's, assemblyman when Carla's, Calra, sorry. He was very careful not to use too many words. Basically, he's just saying that he wanted to see what he could do about alleviating some of the concerns regarding the financing of the bill. He did put out a statement, an official statement, but it was very short.
We've been here before. It's like we've been here before.
Yeah, I have no reason to believe that he isn't going to fight for the bill as he's promising at this time anyway. But yeah, it was still disappointing that he did that.
I'm more of grab your pitchfork type of gal.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like, you know, we don't have time for this shit anymore. And, you know, there are certain people that need to play nice, but like whoever is in this effort, if it were me, because I'm not deeply involved in it, I would hope they look really closely at what the weaknesses are of the opponents and then go right for the jugular, and that's it. Organize, and if there's a boycott to be had, you know, their weakness is obviously their pocketbooks, so and their money and their revenue. So if there's a way to attack that, I'm pretty sure that's when they'll start to listen. But again, I'm not, you know, easier said than done.
Well, and here's a tweet from Healthcare for All Los Angeles. A single-payer Medicare for All system in California doesn't just make sense, it makes dollars and cents. The hardcore economic and social science behind single-payer has been known for decades. Check out this letter from 200-plus economists who agree. So they're basically pointing out how it saves money compared to the nightmare of a system we have now. Like, they're pretty much just saying this. And then you have the establishment, again, for a second time in, what, 3 years? Saying, oh yeah, the finances are just off. I don't know how we can afford this cheaper healthcare. I mean, and plus it's not like, I mean, this is California. We're only the 5th largest GDP in the world.
Larger than Canada.
Possibly larger than Canada, who, by the way, figured this out decades ago.
Exactly.
So, and I know that y'all share my frustration. I'm not saying this to be, you know, discouraging, but merely to just kind of have the difficult strategic conversation that has to happen when you realize you don't have allies in the establishment. I mean, I think it's fair to say like we just don't. And we all want the same things. We might not see eye to eye on every strategy, and that's okay, but we all want the same things. And so it becomes a matter of how do we get there? Because if we can't institute some kind of change in our communities, as you have, Melissa, but I mean, if we can't do those sorts of things, you know, what hope do we have on the federal level?
Well, I think you just said it. I mean, allies in the establishment. That could help a lot to get something through. Now, how do we get allies in the establishment? We need people to run for office. Okay, great. People, you know, good people. All right, great. Once they run for office, they're going to be quashed. You know, we've seen that, but we see a few people getting through here and there. What's it going to take, you know, to get people into office, people that we want into office? I think we need that kind of whole system of, unfortunately, one of the two parties right now, unfortunately, because they run the show at the moment. So then if we can, then there's that next level of getting the party behind a person to support this, you know, but they don't necessarily need a party. They just need a lot of supporters to vote for them. And then, of course, unfortunately, still the money to run a really good campaign and get the word out and get people excited to vote for them. And then they're in. And then once they're in, they can't sell out. And, you know, they can't be bought by other, you know, they got to know what they're doing. They got to be, you know, politically savvy.
But we've not seen that come to fruition yet at all. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we haven't seen that at all. And I understand what you're saying. Like, this is the way the game is right now. Where you know, I think I have a strategic disagreement with you is I say, well, we have to change the game. And both of us are calling for very tall glasses of water. Neither of those two things are easy.
How do we change the game? And by the way, also, I wanted to ask, what's the alternative to, you know, playing this? Well, my alternative was, you know, go for the jugular and just get the pitchforks. But that's
that's my alternative is a general strike.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, and in fact, actually, let me correct myself a little bit. I don't think that's an alternative at this point. I think that's the only way forward, is a straight up general strike. And we're talking like national at this point. I think a general strike is more effective than any, grassroots candidate trying to run for office or anything like that. I think a general strike, shutting it down, I think we're getting closer to it.
Yeah.
Now, as far as healthcare in the state of California, I mean, maybe, just maybe. I mean, I feel like if you put the establishment in a place where they feel like they have no other choice, i.e., you just shut the state down, then yeah, maybe something like that will be taken out sooner rather than later.
I think kind of something on the scale of a general strike, that'll shake things up temporarily. It's not sustainable. It'll be a good shake up. And then usually what happens after something like that, there's a changeover in the legislation or legislators. Some people will come in, but you got to wait. We got to wait for the right moment. You got, and there's, things are staggered where House of Representatives and senators and city council, like all that stuff together is like staggered through over the years. So then the general strike needs to last this whole, election, multiple election cycles to get different people out of office and new people in. And again,
I don't know about that long
to get in. Yeah, I don't even know who would be at the moment, who's up and coming, and who's going to actually be good and not sell out when they get in, not be naive and inexperienced.
None of us know that. None of us know that. You're rolling the dice. It's a gamble. I mean, honestly, like it's a gamble. Nobody knows that. No one knows that. But
that's like way down the line. Well, we're still way down here. Like,
I agree.
Yeah.
But I think as far as general strike, I don't think it has to last. I mean, if you shut things down and the real people running this country, the Jeff Bezos of the country, the Walmarts of the country, they notice something in their pocketbook, bringing it back to hitting people in their pocketbooks. They notice that, hey, no one's driving the trucks. No one's fulfilling the orders. Nothing's happening. Mm-hmm. And they go to the politicians that they own and they say, fix this. Mm-hmm. Well, then the people get some concessions. And
they'll throw crumbs at us, and then they'll infiltrate the union, the organizers, and the organizers will say, oh, we got to take this or else. And then things will settle back down because they own the media. They're going to throw out whatever crap on TV, and people will stop showing up, and that'll be that. I feel like we were there close to something, and things are happening. But I feel like with Black Lives Matter last summer, unfortunately, people have to die for stuff to happen like that. But things slowly changed, and I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think we are
in other countries, when they don't like the way they're being treated, they go on strike? And when things simmer down and things get complicit again and things start going south again, they go on strike a second time,
right?
And a third and a fourth. And before you know it, the status quo has changed and they have a much better society. That, I think, is our only recourse at this point. I mean, yeah, I'm not trying to sound like if we have a general strike in 3 days, it's going to be utopia and there's going to be unicorns flying and rainbows everywhere. Of course, I know that's not the case, but I do think it's the only strategic way forward. Yeah. And, it's not easy. I don't know all the ins and outs of facilitating such a thing, but I know that that's our only way forward. And that's going to yield much more fruit in a much quicker amount of time than just, hey, we're going to try to run for office and try to beat this establishment who's throwing millions and millions of dollars at making sure we don't go anywhere.
I feel that things have to hit home. First of all, we're not a culture, unfortunately. That doesn't mean we can't be, but we're not. We used to be, before our times, a culture of striking. Right. They lost that. That's kind of out the window. So I think educationally, we can start showing, students and, bringing that in, but that'll be a long-term goal. People need to be comfortable with it now. We need to have more of, what was I going to say? Darn it, I forgot what I was going to say. Well, cultures that are used to this, like Argentina, they're always out on the streets. And France, of course, and whatnot. But
France, they don't fuck around.
No, they don't.
They do not.
They don't, but the people support them. The people kind of support that, and they're used to seeing that. They're not uncomfortable seeing people on the streets. And then, also, they have that support of the people, and then the government listens, ideally. But now what we see going on in Colombia, and also, the rules, the chipping away of our public freedoms here in this country to be out on the street by the police, giving them more powers. That's they're maybe they know it's coming. Maybe maybe that's why that they're doing this, and hopefully people can overcome that and get to the street. I also wonder myself if the pandemic had anything to do with it. People are not as busy anymore, and so they were able to get out to the streets. But I was super excited by all the street actions I saw last year. And it has died down, which kind of makes me sad.
Well, I think the anger is still there. And I think that it was way more encouraging than, and you brought up like, well, people have more time so they can get out in the streets. The other side of that too, though, is a lot of people were not able to be out there who wanted to be out there. There were a lot of people who, hey, I really want to be out there right now, but I live with my 80-year-old mom and I can't risk, potentially getting COVID and bringing it home. And so it was very telling, the historic levels of civil unrest that we saw. And I think in a lot of ways, like, the anger is still there. People are just kind of bracing themselves, hoping that something decent is coming next. Dennis, what are your thoughts? You've been a little quiet.
I just wanted to say it's like we have the, in places like France, it's like, yeah, they don't have the hurdles of having healthcare tied to a fucking, I'm sorry, a job.
You can curse here, Dennis. Please do.
Okay. Sorry about that.
A moment in time warrants it. Curse away, buddy.
We have so many not crapping on the idea of a general strike. I think that's definitely one of a few ways forward, and one of a few needed ways forward. But you have to consider some of the hurdles again, like having the healthcare tied to a job. You go out on one of these on a general strike, and your job says, "Oh, well, screw you, you're fired." And then you lost the job, you lost the healthcare, and lost other benefits. I think the general strike is something we need to talk about, but we also need to talk about it with those thoughts in mind as well.
Yeah, from an organizer's perspective, Dennis and I are both like thinking, all right, how do we maximize the number of people? And I remembered what I wanted to say was, it has to affect the people directly, and then that'll maybe get them to write a letter. Or some people are not into writing a letter, maybe they'll go join you for an hour or two on the streets. So I feel like it's gotta hit people closer to home, and so more personally. And so our job, and Ron, you're taking your job seriously as well as a media spokesperson here, to person in media, to get the word out and continue educating and, getting people's eyes open, and hopefully they see some different perspectives and come join us on the street when it's time, or organize something themselves and we'll join them on the street.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make